Please join me in welcoming our new CEO of Rugby Australia, Mr. Phil Waugh.
Thank you very much, and hopefully everyone can hear me okay.
Yep, loud and clear. Everybody can hear Phil down the back? Great, okay. Look, Phil, thank you very much for joining us. I know you've got a very, very busy schedule. We popped to Phil a few questions. I asked a few of our club members some of the questions they'd like to ask, so I did provide Phil these questions in advance. So, you know, there's no Dorothy Dixes or anything like that. And Phil, in the audience, I know you've got visuals, but you've got 220 odd men, women, rugby tragics who desperately want to see the success of rugby union in Australia, both for juniors and seniors. Would you agree? And there's and I've also said to Phil we would love to see him come up here and maybe have a public forum at some stage. And I think it's more about time, but we will organise that. Look, a little bit about Phil. Who doesn't know Phil Waugh? Might be the, you know, so, you know, he was one of the ones at the bottom of just about every ruck on a rugby field everywhere in the world from New South Wales, but we won't hold that against him. And he's now taken on probably one of the biggest challenges. Phil, the first question that we posted to you is almost everyone in the room would generally say congratulations, best wishes, and yet at the same time, you never shirked a battle. But what possessed you to take on this role? This must be one of the more challenging roles in sports in Australia.
Yeah, thanks for that, and sorry I couldn't be there in person. Unfortunately, a lot going on, so I couldn't get there, but thanks for having me just now. I think, firstly I'll say it's a huge honour and privilege, but just like when you get a Wallaby jersey for the first time, it's easy to put the jersey on, but the most important thing is to actually perform in it. So I will say I feel an enormous amount of responsibility to represent all of you who essentially own the game. I mean, I've got the responsibility to govern it, but the game's owned by our community. And so, you know, I grew up playing junior rugby as a 4-year-old in the Northern Beach to Sydney and came through the pathways and experienced most areas and levels of rugby. And so, certainly appreciate the importance of clubs and the community and schools. And then experienced 79 tests playing for the Wallabies and played professionally for 13 years. But I think what's happened over time is just a big disconnect between the amateur game and the professional game. And so, you know, I feel that I've got a lot to add. I'm really passionate about rugby and about ensuring that rugby is maximising its potential in Australia. And I think there's a lot of good things happening in rugby right across the ecosystem. And so, to answer the question, I'd say that I feel like I've got a lot to offer, having gone through from grassroots right through to the international game, and looking forward to connecting with everyone in the community, because you know, that's the most important part of our game, and that's what makes it thrive.
Great, thanks Phil, and we welcome you up to the Gold Coast at some stage, and love to connect with you and maybe put on a public forum, you know, for the various clubs. You've only got about 6 weeks to go, I believe, or probably less, before, I think it's the 8th of September is our very first game, New Zealand, France. So the Wallabies, you know, have had a challenging preparation, you may say. What can we do to fix it? You know, you've got Eddie Jones, you've got a new coach. You announced the new squad yesterday with a bunch of new players. What do you think is missing, or what do you think we need in the Wallabies? Because that's the linchpin, that's the big attraction for the code, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think hopefully everyone's encouraged by the first 4 games. Probably not the greatest start for Victoria, losing against Sydney that we should have won. Started well for 30 minutes in the test match at the MCG, probably 50 minutes in the test match in Dunedin. And so there is progress, but I think, most importantly, I think just like winning becomes a habit, unfortunately losing becomes a little bit of a habit as well. And so I think Eddie's really trying to drive that level of belief. And whilst we all want to win every test match, we also need to show that Australian spirit and that Australian passion when we're playing. And I think we're seeing that come through the team now, and I think that's that's exciting, and as a former player and a rugby supporter, I think it's really important that we see that real Australian spirit come through the players, and in the way that, you know, we're proud about the way they go about their business. And you know, you go through the history of who's won Rugby World Cups. It's always been the teams with you know, strong forward pack. You need the 9 and 10 dominating, and I think we're starting to see glimpses of the brilliance between Taylor Sherman and Carly Gordon, and given the team that Eddie's picked, I think we'll be relying on those two quite a lot as we go through the tournament. And of course, everyone knows the draw, and if you don't know the draw, you know, we're certainly blessed with a good draw with Fiji and Waugh in our pool. And then if we get through the pool, then we face either Argentina or England in the quarterfinals. And then we don't meet France, New Zealand, South Africa or Ireland until the other side in the semi-final. So important to peak at the right time, and we could argue we're getting better, so hopefully that yeah, by the time we hit France, we're in a good spot.
Yeah. First 100 days, what would be your 3 major projects or goals that you're setting for yourself for the Wallabies and Rugby Australia?
Survival would be good. I think, look, I'm a firm believer of connectivity and simplification across the system. So, yeah, really important to look at the structures and you know, I talked earlier around the fact I was a Narrabeen Tiger and I went on to play for the Wallabies. I think we've got to make it really clear for our young boys and girls about how they go through and how they can achieve at their clubs, schools, through the junior pathways through to become a Wallaroo or a Wallaby or an Australian Sevens player. And so very much sort of around alignment and making sure that our pathways are as strong as possible. If you go through where we've probably been a little bit weaker than we should, we've lost a lot of great talent through our pathways, and so spending a lot of time on that and connecting with our Super Rugby clubs and our member unions, which ultimately, just like the community owns the game, our member unions own the game of rugby in Australia, and really important to connect.
Excellent. Phil, I know you've got a busy schedule, and we really appreciate your time here today and spending it with a lot of people who've got a lot invested in the game. Ladies and gentlemen, just please join me in thanking and welcoming and wishing the best for the new CEO of Rugby Australia, Phil Waugh.
Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon there.
Cheers. Thanks. We shall. I failed to mention Phil has also donated a signed rugby jersey as well, which has only just come up to the Gold Coast for us. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Look, that's all for me. I'm going to be able to sit down and have a drink myself now because we've got the Rugby World Cup panel. And it's not about telling you what you don't know, but it's telling you about some of the ideal games. And I've got what I think is, together with Selena Tranter, who's going to be your moderator, a great group of people who've had vast experience in the World Cup. So let me just click on those slides. But just before we get going, just to set the scene, I thought we'd show you a bit of a trailer from the Rugby World Cup.